Hello everybody, Ben Sawyer here. Going to talk over one of my most recent pieces. Big fan of the Continue show on YouTube, so figured I would make them some fan art. So that's what I've been doing on my Twitch stream the last few days. And I had the amazing fortune of them watching and subscribing and hosting and all that stuff. So if you guys are watching this, thank you, you're awesome. And yeah, anyway, so where we started off here, I didn't get a recording of it because I was just doodling one day. I was just doodling, so I didn't get a good recording of the initial draft, but it's close enough. Got the basic blocking in, and the pose and the background and all that stuff. So what you see here is sort of my own it's my own method of sort of choosing what I want my template to be and blocking in my values. I don't know how I stumbled into this method. You know, I do a lot of YouTube searches and a lot of tutorials. I watch online, rather. I don't do many, I don't do enough. But I watch a lot of people doing their work. And so this must have been an amalgamation of the things that I've watched. But yeah, I like underpainting's not that rare. A lot of people do their values first, but they usually do it in black and white. This is sort of twofold. I get to assign the overall feel I want with the page with these values, and then I also get to do my light, shadow, and contrast and stuff like that. This is at 1000% the speed. This is about, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I don't know, 15 hours worth of footage. And so yeah, I gotta crunch it pretty quick, otherwise you'd be in for a very long video. This is already gonna be pretty long. I'm gonna try to cut it down, but it's 15 hours of work condensed. If I speed it up much more, you won't see the cursor. It won't look like anything's happening. I do have my work flow sort of narrowed down to big group stages, but within each stage I sort of have ADD. It's probably undiagnosed, but you'll see that I'll go from an ear to a finger to a weapon to shoelaces back to the eye. I don't know, it's sort of like an artist that steps back from their canvas and they see something and then they attack it and they step back again. You see me zoom out all the time. I even probably cock my head to the side. I don't know if that helps, but I wonder if that has something to do with eye dominance. I definitely have a stigmatism, so I've got one eye that's very different than the other. I think it's even more football shaped than a normal eyeball, which is kind of creepy if you think about it, but what that means is that my pictures always come off a little slanted, sort of like you did a free transform and then you picked one of the squares on the side and shifted it, a percentage or something to the up, down, left, or right. It's the whole picture is just kind of skewed, and you'll see later I'll flip the canvas, and this is a very regular practice. You need to flip your canvas all the time, because most people have astigmatism. I hope I'm saying that right. But that's what I've been telling my students for 2 years. But and that's really the only way to catch it, is to flip your canvas. And most of the time you flip it and you go, oh my god, that's awful, let me fix that. And if you watch it's also good for composition as well. So you'll see a lot of other artists out there do that. They'll flip the canvas a few times per piece to make sure the composition's right and things aren't skewed or wonky or whatever. So you see I did sort of a really quick pass over for costume with all the absolute light. You notice I didn't really do any shadow because the background is so dark that the shadow is sort of implied. So I just did a single pass for the light layer, and it gets darker from top to bottom. Of course, there's always some things I miss. so I gotta go back in there and fix it up. A lot of these pullouts too, you know this is like sped up times 1,000. So a lot of these times I went to go take the dogs out or refill my coffee or bathroom break or whatever. I feel sorry for my streamers, but I'm streaming 8 hours a day, so that's gonna happen. Yeah, these big long pauses like this, but you'll see a lot of lassoing and free transform. He didn't have enough brain pan, so I just scooped the top part of his head, stretched it, and then filled in the blank spot. I'm going in here with some absolute blacks. I just felt it was time. These are things that only are devoid of any light. I think I went in to change that shadow under his neck later. But Paul here has black hair, so black eyebrows, black pits in the eyes there. So you'll see at the end of the piece, there's very few values on the final that are actually absolute black. Probably not at all. If you look at the histogram, there's probably 0 black on the final, and that's just sort of the way I work. Every once in a while I'll do a piece where things are just absolute black or lost in black, but if you look at classical paintings, they don't do that very often. If they do, it's in a few spare spots, but they tend to show you what's there, and your eye will gravitate towards. Oh, here we go. See, I'm adjusting the whole canvas. Flip, stigmatism. But yeah, I tend to avoid absolute blacks. I like showing the detail, and I'll light up the things with that I think deserve your attention, and keep things dark that are devoid of light. There's a few things I had problems with on this piece. I liked Josh's arms up like that. Oh, it's just a very sort of commanding pose. And I was sold with it for about half the time. And then later when it came time to putting weapons in his hands, it's like, well, you can't see the weapons, they just look like he's holding 2 wooden sticks. And it looked natural, like if you held 2 axes over your head, the weight of the axe would probably bring your elbows up like that. But for whatever reason, I just wasn't happy in the end, so you'll see that change later on. And I'm pretty happy with where it went. It ends up very similar to what it is now, but it does change. I was going for more of an English sort of highwayman traveler captain for Paul here in the center. Just got a cape with the 2, they're not buttons, but the 2 things they're holding it in. You'll see later he's got chainmail sleeves. He's got the 2 hip guards down there. Maybe some leather armor underneath. Definitely everybody's multi-layered. Josh has red hair, so I went Irish, and Nick over there, I think he's Italian as well, if I remember. If I don't know. He kind of went Viking with him too. Fur around his shoulders. I changed his arms too. Oh, here we go. It's happening. Did not like his arms the way it was. There you go. That's much more natural. And we'll see more of that later. You see how scatterbrained I am, though. There we go. Okay, back to lights, blocking in these new arm positions, and some blacks. It's actually starting to look like Josh a little bit. So we have double axe action sort of resting. They still look like they're kind of floating. I think I fixed that later in the future. Or I know they just kind of look like they're floating, but this is all a multi-stage process. Like I said, about 15 hours. Not everything's going to end up how it started. That's the nice thing going digital too, is you don't have to scrap a drawing and start over, or completely destroy your page with eraser marks and stuff like that. I was pretty confident with the way this picture was blocked in, so I decided to start with a stroke. I'm a big fan of strokes. I just love the separation from foreground to background. It's sort of an old Illustrator trick, and I've been an illustrator most of my career, so I just love the way that looks. You'll see later that I've got some sort of fiery mountain in the background, providing this yellow-orange backlight. So it'll make more sense once it's finished. Most of the time, strokes don't make sense. A lot of times they just pull out foreground elements from an absolute black or an otherwise dark background, and they don't always rely on a light source for a stroke. Here I am adjusting the values a little more, making sure what's on the bottom of the page is receiving less light than the top. Just doing some refinements here. I remember an episode where Nick had the stage light in his glasses, and he looked evil and angry, so I decided to run with that for this piece. It's also a cool kind of anime trope to hide somebody's eyes with reflective light. I put his pupils in there anyway, just because. You're gonna see a lot of tweaking with the faces. Paul I almost nailed kind of right away. He's got a lot of sharp features, and it's a caricature. It's not them exactly, but if you knew them and you saw this, there'd be no question. I like multiple light sources. It's obvious now that there's a very heavy top blue light and an orange backlight, but it's more of an act of a stroke than an actual light source, because it's not behaving like a light source. It's just setting them up from the background. But I decided to put a white light coming in from the left, just for extra contrast. And who am I chatting with? Yeah, just to add an extra layer of depth. And form is the marriage of light and shadow. So if you don't have ink in here doing all the heavy lifting for you, then you've got to rely on light and shadow. Light brings things out, dark brings things back. So I get to pick up all these sharp, heavy features on Paul's face here. I hit his cloak a little bit. His captain's pauldron. I know they're not called buttons. It's probably some French word here, keeping his cape on. I also know they're a little lower too. They're typically up by the collarbone, but just a matter of time, I guess, till a true weapons expert chimes in and goes, your hilt is crooked, your cape's attached too low, that sword doesn't match the time period. You know, everybody's got their obsessions. Josh has this really wicked, strong warrior nose. They all do, actually. Very defined. People with defined features are easier to draw. You know, a lot of pretty people in Hollywood have very plain faces. You know, round jawlines and round eyes and perfect skin and straight noses, and everybody starts to look the same. So regular people like us with features, it's much more fun to draw. I'm adjusting my proportions. Adding more light and shadow to the arms. I'll sip on my drink here. A little Bailey's, a little vodka, a little amaretto, Disaronno to be exact. Nice long pause there. Must have been a big bathroom break. All right. And my scattered artist brain zooming out. Getting a lay of the land, coming back, zooming back in. What am I doing here? Alright. Decided to do a background. That's what my brain wanted to do at the moment. You don't really see much of this in the final piece, both because of the blur. I like to do a focal length to keep things blurred in the background or whatever. And I lay a title in there too, so that makes it extra hard to see, but you're seeing it now. It's kind of a jagged, unrealistic, sort of hilly mountain background. There's that blue on the top, sort of tie in our character's foreground. There we go. See? A lot of times I'll do 2 sketches, so I don't have to readjust things like the pommel on that sword, which is way off. I noticed the sword is way off in the future, like the whole hand portion is crooked from the sword. So I grabbed it and just twisted it around. A lot of times I'll do a rough sketch, and I'll drop the opacity and do another sketch on top of it just for refinement. But I didn't this time. It's ironic how much attention I put to not ironic, wrong word. Interesting. See how much time I put into these elements, because I end up changing them. Everybody's got a pretty strong pose, right? The middle guy and the right guy are standing there with some authority. And Nick over here is just sort of got his arms down by his side and not really doing much. Just wasn't proud of it. Laying in some Gaussian blur where appropriate. Scatterbrained. Just hitting things up here and there. Probably why it takes so long. I don't stick with one character and finish it, move on to the next character, finish it. Sort of go where my brain takes me. It's probably why I drift over to the internet so much. You know, I'm not very task driven. I just sort of stare at the canvas, and if it needs it, I attack it. Lately, I've been telling myself to slow down and spend more time. But in the past, I would spend, I don't know, 8 hours tops, maybe 10 tops on a piece. And then, because it was nighttime, or because I'd spent the whole day on it, I would come up with a reason to say it was finished. Whether it was or not, I would say that's good enough. And that's the wrong way to go. You know, it's not over till it's over. And there's nobody rushing me. Especially this one, it's a fan piece. But even if they did pay for it, you know, there are very few people that I've worked with in the past that say, you know, I don't want you to take your time. I need this now. I could probably count on 2 hands the number of jobs I've had that were rushed, that needed it very quickly. And that's not counting all my comic work. You know, most of the comic stuff I did, like for Xenoscope and things like that, all had deadlines. Very, very harsh deadlines. 2 weeks to color a book, etc., etc. I once had to color 2 comics while vacationing at Disneyland because I knew I could. And it was not fun. It was awful. Alright, so I'm spending a good amount of time here looking for... I could have sworn I had a chain link brush. Chain link. I do have a chain link brush. Chainmail brush. Tires, I got chains, bullet holes, bullet wounds, ink splatters, lots of stuff, architecture. I said, well, I'm wasting too much time, so let's just get in there and do it. So, it's funny is you dread doing things like this, and then you just put on a podcast and stick your nose in it and go. Stop complaining, just do it. And then you get done, you're like, well, I didn't take very long. The concept of it's more dreadful than the actual task. That's a nice trifecta of light, midtones, and shadow. I know it's not 100% accurate. You know, with chainmail, they're all interlinked. You know, made by hand and intersecting and interlinking circles and things like that. But this is actually only a resolution of a desktop image. You know, I think it's 1920 by 1080, I think. So if I got much closer, and you might see it in the future when I get closer to the eyes and things like that, you'll see the pixelation. But it's not a very high-res piece. If it were a poster, a movie poster, I would have to zoom in another probably 60% to get in there, and you know, start doing textures like fiber and leather and maybe even skin and stuff like that. But at this range, it's not necessary. I do some textures in it later on just for diversity. But yeah, I've been working kind of small lately. Just sort of cut my teeth on this method. You know, I've been a comic artist for about 6 years, and not really making the headway I need to be making to survive. So I'm making a transition to online streamer, mentor, tutorial teacher, digital painter, concept artist, all that stuff. Sort of the way of Andrew Jones or Feng Zhu, something like that. Should I have a career still prestigious as those guys? But, you know, patience. Looks like we're getting to the end of my first day. I think I posted that image online, I'm not sure. Kind of wanted to keep it a secret until I got some real progress. But that was about 5.5 hours we just crushed. Got 3 more short segments and 1 medium segment to wrap this thing up. But we're about halfway through. I went with sort of a Celtic weave, sort of decor. I don't know if any of those words were right. For his shirt. So only the poorest of the poor wore shirts with no color or no design on them. So let's give these guys some prestige. We all know how warriors like to wear multiple belts, so they're not belts, I know it's armor, but another canvas flip, and I see everything sort of slanting off to the right. Nick's head's a little, I don't know, I think it was too small. I think I changed that another 2 or 3 times in the future, just not satisfied. I noticed down the line that Paul's line is jaw is out of alignment. You'll see that later. Making some selection to get that shield just right. Yeah, it looks all right. More nitpicking here and there. Widen up his face a little bit. Looks like I tabbed over to Chrome, and we're back. I got to a point where I felt like I was maybe ready to move on to color. I've got another layer on a color modifier, so it's not changing any of the values. It's just changing the hue and tint. That's quite a process for me. It's different with every piece. Sometimes I'll have the color layer on overlay, on soft light, on hard light. Sometimes I'll have two. I'll have one that's on soft light at 75% and one that's on color burn on like 20%, 30%, sometimes 40, very rarely. And you know, I really wish there was one way to do it so I could save a few hours worth of work. Maybe there is a way and I just haven't found it yet, but I'd like to think that every piece is different and requires its own little strategy. Alright, so it was at this point I decided that I hated Nick's shield and sword combo. It was just kind of, I don't know. He was just sort of sitting there, not really doing anything. So I said, let me change this up, despite all the work it takes. You know, you can't. Sometimes you can just push things. Okay, I just lost. There, see? Gotta fix his jawline. One jaw was much higher than the other. Probably putting off redoing Nick's arms. But anyway, you know, you can't just put something out there that you don't like because you either A, don't think anybody's going to notice, or B, it's too much work, or C, you've put too much time in it already and you don't want to erase it. You know, it's one of my big hurdles lately is that you sometimes you just got to erase it. There's a few times where I felt like I had to start this piece over completely, and you know, somebody else out there might you know, more professional than me said, yeah, you should have. But I think I did enough changes and modifications to make it look pretty good in the end. I mean, I like the piece a lot, and I know my next piece will be better. That's how it works. But I was really unhappy with his arms. He just looked kind of dumpy and bored. He's got a face full of scowl. I need to give him a proper pose with his arms to match the face. Definitely stepped away for a minute on that one. Should probably edit these out. Nah. Put some music in here for you so you're not totally bored. Feel free to comment, you know, below. I'm not so popular that I won't check my comments and reply. People have been asking me to do these videos for years, and I was either busy with a contract or lazy or didn't have the content. You know, I tell my students I'll do more of these, and my friends, I ask them like, yo, what do you guys want? And more of these. So what I think I might do is you know, I stream at least 30 hours a week, so I might start compiling some of the pieces I do in my streams and mash them together and do a little voiceover, or if they're short enough, I'll just make a little music video out of it. Just gotta find music that won't demonetize me on YouTube or get me hung up in licensing. Need to find a partner, a musical partner. Got a few of those. Shouldn't be too hard. Got a bunch of people that makes music. And they're always like, yo, hit me up if you need music. So maybe I should actually do that. Might do a Facebook status or tweet out there tonight saying, yo, my videos need music. This one's an hour long or so. So I'm going to need a lot. I can't pay you because I'm as broke as a joke. But if things go well, you'll get some exposure and send some traffic your way. Most of the people I know are right in there with me in the career level, just sort of right in the middle. Not fresh, not pro. I like to call it pro-am. Still kind of amateur, but still getting money here and there. So we're pro-am artists, pro-am creatives. That'd be a good name for a company. Until we went pro, and then it would be like, well, probably shouldn't call yourself amateur anymore. So I'd call these years the Pro-Am years of my life. You know, working my way up, building my client base, my resume. So yeah, I abandoned that white light for a while. Now I'm going back through it. I found some inspiration online to put his hands in front of him on top of a weapon. Yeah, it looks much more demanding right there. I love it. And it definitely changes the whole dynamic of the pose. And I think it gives Nick something more to be proud of. Like I said before, he just kind of, I don't know, just looked kind of dumpy. Now, he's standing there with some authority, so. You know, I'd like to think I'm tabbing away or going over to my Twitch stream, talking to people every time the screen pauses. But I also have two 13-month-old puppies, so they're either attacking the mailman or eating each other's faces off or asking me to go out. You know, it's not like having a kid, but it's not like having a kid. But it's not like having a kid. People with kids hate pet owners trying to compare anything to having a kid. So I'll stop. Alright, so I turned off that color layer. You know, I'm not done yet here. I got more work to do. We're going to another big segment here. This looks like another one of my 3 or 4 hour chunks. Blocking in his right forearm there. With the foreshortening, we won't see his upper arm at all. And after his weapon's in there, we won't even hardly see his forearm either. Yeah, I got a little vocal fry going on. I'm trying to keep it quiet. So if that irritates you, I'm sorry. I hate vocal fry speakers, so I try really hard not to do it, but try not to scream on here either. So got a Patreon banner there on the right side. If you like stuff like this, you know, throw me $1 or whatever. If you're not down for that, you give me a follow on Twitch, Instagram, Tumblr, wherever. I'm everywhere as Sketch Sawyer. I do stream every day of the week, sometimes on weekends. Usually stuff just like this. I got a comic gig coming up. You'll see some comic pages. Got some video game work, animation work coming up, so you'll get to see some animation stuff that I'll illustrate in Photoshop and animate in After Effects. And hopefully that'll lead to other animation stuff. I really want to get into 2D animation, so hopefully one thing leads to another. Alright, I had to cut a chunk out there. A chunk out there. I don't remember what I was talking about, but who cares? Yep, just doing more nitpicking here. Stand back, see what's missing. Come back in. Giving his bottom of his shirt there's some texture. His sleeves look like they're kind of puffy and floating like armor, and it's not armor, they're fabric resting on other fabric, so gotta mess with the ellipses there, make the top look like it's touching, and all the slack at the bottom. Yeah. Feel now like I probably felt then, which is, what do I do next? You know, probably just surveying the lands and taking it all in. Sometimes you just gotta step away. I'm glad this took 3 days, because there are times you definitely need to walk away from your project. You get so hyper focused on the details. You're like, oh, that chainmail looks good, the texture on the shirt looks good, and then you don't really notice that Paul doesn't really have a crotch. His crotch goes too high, or his hips are too narrow, or lots of different reasons. So here we go, fixing the blades. They were kind of floaty, like he was holding them there, which is fine, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted him resting on his shoulders, or on his neck, or something like that. I'm not really working off of any reference material here, just sort of winging it. So there's a lot of values here that, in the end, might be inaccurate. How light and shadow hits these surfaces, might look good to the layman, but a master illustrator out there might look at it and go, oh, well, that's not quite accurate, But I've come a long way. This looks a lot better than where I used to be, and I really feel like not relying on ink, like a comic artist does, really forces you to really pay attention to a lot more things. I was on the simpler side as a cartoonist as well, where I would rely on very simple characters and shapes to get my message across. And when you go full-on digital painter, you can't do that. You've got, a lot more details to think about. I struggled with Nick's size a lot here. I don't really know how tall they are in relation to each other. I know they're all very vaguely similar. I know Paul is a lot taller, I think, if I had to guess. But okay, here comes the weapon. His arms hovering was probably weird enough. Give him a nice long pole axe. It's coming up to his chest. That makes it, what, about 4 feet tall? Between 3 and 4 feet? Looks like we're still working. There you go. Flip back. And back to the color layer. None of this is final, final look I'm going for. Just get some level of accuracy now with skin tone, and then mess with all the opacities later to make it fit the scene. Because right now, if he was just perfect skin color in perfect blues and perfect reds, then it wouldn't fit in the scene at all. It would look like it would look like the comic books I hate, but it would look like a coloring book. And I like my foreground to really soak in the template and the ambience of the picture. So, very important to me that the colors very rarely come out, color perfect. So a gold belt buckle will not be gold after the blue light's hitting it from the top, the white light's hitting it from the left, and then the shadow from his arms and all that lays on top of it. It's just going to be a dark brown. It's not a coloring book. It's all part of color theory, and there's master classes taught on that. And I am no master. I've just been at it a long time, so I have a vague idea of how things should work, and then people are kind enough to pay me for it. Including a major university, so that's something. I get mixed feelings on education and the arts. There are masters that work at these universities to share their knowledge with students who are willing to learn. And I'm telling you now, when a student really cares, it's awesome. It's really refreshing. A lot of classes are mandatory, and students will think that this class is in their way of what they really want. Like, I teach character design, but these kids just want to model. They just want to 3D model or animate, and they don't think my class is important. So they screw off. They don't put their effort into it. Not all of them. A few here and there. A few every year. I usually get pretty good kids. But there are instructors out there that are world class teaching classes. And these classes, if you're wanting to learn art and the basics and the advanced steps and how to do stuff, then there's people out there willing to teach it. So by all means, taking a class is always recommended. If it's not in person, it's online. A lot of these, say if you want to be a concept artist, there's concept artists out there doing basically what I'm doing. They're streaming online. They're selling classes on their website. They're selling positions, or seats in their mentor program. The information's out there. I've been doing a lot of job research lately, and a lot of them do call for a degree of some kind. Most of them, especially AAA titles, AAA studios like Bungie and 343 and all the major studios putting major games together all look for degrees. So bounce around from school to school if you want, or if you find a school with a major that you like and a program that you like, then stick with it, make it happen, get that degree, and go get your ass a job. Tough it out. I don't think school is absolutely mandatory to get that job. If you've got the motivation to take the classes from home, or train yourself with those classes on your own time, and then you get yourself a ridiculously good portfolio, and then you probably have to start on the indie scene, working on independent games, and work your way up to AAA. But if you can do it, do it. Do what you do. If you're motivated enough to pull that off, then do it, man. But I know a lot of people are not. Most are not. And it would take a college program to really motivate people. I don't know many people that could instill their own deadlines. Like, I got this project, I got an animation project, it needs to be finished before, I go back to work on Monday or something. So, or, I only get weekends to do it. So from 4 to 8 on Fridays and Tuesdays or something, I've got this project. Most people would be like, you know what, I'm tired, I'm gonna go get some wings and watch a movie with my gal or something, and I'll do it tomorrow. That's how life goes. And then you're 37 and you go, well, yeah, I was an artist once. But if you're paying $150 a credit hour or more, and you're blowing either your money or your parents' money, or whoever, your grant money, loan money, down the toilet because you're not doing your work, then that's guilt. And guilt is a huge motivator. So sometimes school is the motivator people need to get those prerequisites for the industry to pay attention, for that portfolio to look the way it should. Sometimes you need that school as the horse pulling your cart. And I know it's expensive and it doesn't apply to everybody, and if you can't do it, then there are other ways. YouTube is a vast, infinite resource. So if you can't afford school, then it's not the end of the world. If you can't afford school, there's no reason not to. Just do your research. Not all schools are what they say they are. There's a lot of schools that are for profit. Let me intercept myself real quick. I like this feature that Photoshop has called oil paint. It really throws in some brush strokes and make it look like this was done on canvas or whatever. So I'll run the filter and then I'll drop it like 30% or whatever, but it's a neat look. I strongly recommend against any Photoshop filters built in. I've seen people take pictures, run the sketch filter over it and say, yeah, I drew that. And the shame of it is that most people are fooled and they go, wow, that's a great picture. How'd you do that? Sad, but I know they'll never get work because professionals will see it and go, yeah, no. Nice try, butthole. Get out of here. So he's as far as he's gonna go. Or somebody's gonna ask him for a process video, like, hey man, let me see a time lapse, and they won't be able to provide. So we're getting towards the end here. I got all the colors leveled out or layered out there. The green sleeves there, the sort of off-white fur, beards and belts and straps and stuff like that. It's probably a club somewhere called Beards, Belts and Straps. Constantly resizing, constantly checking myself for composition. I know there's some things that bug me that I'll go in and fix later, so there's, yeah, see, here we go. The hips are just too narrow, and it looks so much better this way. It's really awkward. Adding some more diffused light. Sort of blow out that white light coming in from the side. Overexposing. Sorry, I don't know where these boogers came from. I'll be messing with levels probably for a little while. There you go, bringing in some tartan. What do you call that? Tartan texture. And then go off and find something for Nick as well. Some sort of leather embossed texture. Value, shade, hues. There you go, some color glow. We got some glow on the backlight and some of the metal. Yeah, I'm messing with the logo some more. I must have done that 10 times already. More values. Constantly messing with values. I'm working on a foreground color wash right now that I'm going to lay on top of them. This is a recent habit I started with my Overwatch piece, where I did that color you see that sort of resembles the background color. I'll do one color that's one layer that's like 30% burn, and another layer that's like 20 to 40% lighten, and it sort of fades the whole picture, but I don't know, it really ties it all together for me. I know it sort of washes it all out. Maybe I'll get over it, but it's kind of my thing right now. So, but it's subtle, 20 and 30% here and there. Adding some, I think I made a specular layer, which I'll animate in After Effects later, make it flicker. So that, a little more depth, just make a few things pop out. Especially with those new layers on top that fade everything, that specular layer will really pop things out. Here I'm going to add some sparks in. I must not like that one. I think I do a bunch of them before I find one I like. Yeah, that just looked like dirt. Didn't like that one very much. I think I ended up going back to that first one. Yeah, I do one here. Yep, that was too random. And we're back. Let's mess with the values. There we go. That looks good. Stretch, skew, erase, opacity. And you're in the end here, folks. Thanks for hanging in there. Again, that's Sketch Sawyer everywhere, from Patreon to Instagram to Twitch. I'm online every day of the week. Rare occasion I'll have a doctor's appointment or vet visit, or last Friday I took Dad out for Father's Day. I had a free follow Friday thing going on. I'll do that next Friday too. If you follow me, I'll give you a free sketch. Just a sketch, nothing crazy. But yeah, I'm online every day, guys. You know, come say hi, pitch in. Here comes the final product. Boom. That's from left to right, Nick, Paul, and Josh from the Continue Show on YouTube. They put a video up every Wednesday. Thanks for watching, guys. See y'all next time.